Hey everybody, it's Shelby from Staying Books, and I figured it was time to do a little bit of an unboxing and book haul for November. I have had such an insane month and getting adjusted to this new schedule. I'm trying something a little different today because my schedule's been so much on nights now. I thought I would try breaking out some of the lighting equipment that my company has and see how that works. It's a little much for my small little apartment, even with just the one light up, but at least I have light, I'm visible, and you can see me even though it's late at night I'm shooting this. But yeah, I thought I would do an unboxing. I have my very first ever order from Book Outlet, and I thought I would open that up because I've never ordered from them before, and they had a couple books this month that I really wanted to get a hold of, and so I indulged myself there. And then I have another trip to my favorite bookstore that kind of got a little out of hand, so I actually have a huge book haul to do because I discovered a few things there, but we'll get into that in a minute. I decided I was going to go to my used bookstore that I always go to, and I always find gems there, and I did. Found my normal gems, but there was something that I didn't realize. They have a huge section of books outside that are mostly like young children's books, and I've never really looked through it, and I was talking to the proprietors the last time I was in there, and they said that's kind of where they throw a lot of their YA books as well. Well, it turns out that those books are 99 cents for a hardback and 50 cents for a paperback. So I decided I was going to go digging when I was there last time, and I found a ton of books that I wanted or that sounded interesting. And since they were 99 cents or 50 cents, I picked up a whole huge stack of books that I wasn't expecting to do. First up, I picked up Graceling by Kristen Cashore. I've heard some good things about this book, but I don't really know much about it. And since it was the first book in the series and it was there for 50 cents, I kind of figured that was a good purchase. This just looks like it could be really, really interesting and right up my alley with like YA fantasy. So I thought I'd give that one a try. I also picked up The Wizard Heir by Cinda Williams-Chima. I've heard really good things about this author. This is, I think, the second book in this particular series, but since I've been really interested in reading this author, and again, it was $1, I figured I'd grab this book and look into getting the first book in the series and check them out. The funny thing is with most of these books that I picked up, I know next to nothing about a lot of them. So it was like what just looked interesting or what authors that I heard of before and I decided I needed to get. So I'm going to have to look into the first book in the series and see what it looks like. My next pickup was when I just looked at the book, it looked really interesting, and I decided I would add it. And that was The Secret of Castle Kant by K.P. Bath. I just really liked the look of this cover, and it just looked really cute. I just really liked the intro to this, the little first paragraph. It said, Lucy trembled as Arden Goods placed the key in her hand. She had the strange feeling that it unlocked the door to a make-believe world where she could be a dashing spy and rescue Pauline from the villainous Vlad Orloff. But real life, she knew, almost never resembled life in storybooks, except in unpleasant manners, such as wicked stepmothers and wolves with tastes for young girls. So it just looked like a really fun, I'm assuming probably middle grade, but just really, really entertaining. She's a shy girl, a loyal servant, a cunning spy, and rebel until she discovers the truth. So I just thought it looked like a lot of fun. Next up, I pretty much invaded their shelves for just about every book they had on hand of the Emmeline series. Now, this is a bunch of groupings of different series within the Emmeline world by Tamora Pierce. And I already own the first 4 books within that world, the Circle of Magic series, which is Sandry's book, Triss's book, Daja's book, and Briar's book. So the next, grouping in that is the Circle Opens, which is book 1, Magic Steps, book 2, Street Magic, book 3, Cold Fire, and finally book 4, Shattered Glass. And then there are a couple of books in the Circle Reforged, and I picked up the second book in that. I don't have the books on either side, Battle Magic and The Will of the Empress. So that has me with almost that entire world's compilation of books. I figured that was a good run of things to have all of those with the 4 that I already own, and I can just pick up those final 2 books. And sure, they're not all the same size and it makes it awkward, but I'm not really collecting for visual right now. I'm collecting for having the books. So I'll have to add the original 4 back on my TBR. I haven't read them in years, and it would be fun to reread those and then move on to the next books in the world chronologically. Because I was on the Tamora Pierce run, I also picked up books 1 and 2 in her Immortals series. So book 1, Wild Magic, and book 2, Wolf Speaker. I do enjoy Tamora Pierce, and these were there, and it was book 1 and book 2, so I figured I might as well get started on owning that series and be able to add them as well. Next, I picked up Doctor Who Touched by an Angel. I have never read a Doctor Who book, but I am obsessed with the TV show. It's like my all-time favorite show. I absolutely adore it, and the Weeping Angels are like my favorite villain of all time in that world, because I do love the 11th Doctor in Matt Smith and then his companions Amy and Rory, so this was definitely it was there, it was random, and I was like, all right, sure, let's check it out. This book I picked up is one I just remember this from when I was a kid, and I have not read this book since I was probably like 8 years old, and I just remember the title and remember loving it as a kid, so it was there. It just happened to be on the top shelf, and the title popped out at me, and I was like, you know what, that would just be a fun reread, and it's a, young, total kids book. But that's Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher by Bruce Colville, and I just really wanted to reread it, and those childhood memories, if this is one of those books. I think my mom read this to us when we were kids. That was like my first introduction to it, and I just remember the title. I remember Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher, and I remember little bits about the story, so I thought it would be fun to kind of go back and just as a quick holiday entertainment reread that one. Next up, I picked up Fairest by Gail Carson Levine. This is the author who wrote Ella Enchanted, and I really enjoyed Ella Enchanted as a film. I've never read any of her books, and since they had Fairest there, I figured it would be a fun one to do. It is a fairy tale retelling of the Snow White tale, so I thought that would be a lot of fun and just something different and enjoyable to try out. So I know absolutely nothing about this next book. It is a compendium. It is the Den of Shadows Quartet by Amelia Atwater Rhodes. It does have all 4 books in the series in it, which is In the Forest of the Night, Demon in My View, Shattered Mirror, and Midnight Predator. Obviously some sort of paranormal fantasy YA kind of book. I know nothing about it, but since all 4 books were contained within it and it was $1, looked like it could be something interesting. I thought I'd give it a try. Alright, I'm the weird person who has never read any Brandon Sanderson, and I've definitely wanted to check him out. And just by chance, they happen to have Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson, and I really want to read his Mistborn and his young adult, but this just, I've heard lots of people talking about, and it was there, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give his middle grade stuff a try, see how this goes. It just looked fun anyway, the cover is entertaining, so I thought I would see what I thought of the younger reading level. The last 2 books I picked up out of the YA section of my used bookstore, I know absolutely nothing about. They were just cover interesting and thought I would grab. The first one is Sapphique? I don't know. I'm terrible at pronouncing it. By Catherine Fisher. It is the sequel to Incarceron. I have heard of Incarceron, but I know nothing about it, so I thought I would get the sequel now, be able to pick up Incarceron, and start this series. Besides, the cover is fantastic, and it just really drew me in. I was like, ooh, this looks really interesting. So it's a steampunk series, and I really like steampunk, so I thought I would give that one a shot. And stay pile. And the last book I picked up is Cinder and Sapphires at Somerton by Layla Rashid. This is a historical novel. It's been described from what I looked up and about it a little bit as kind of a Downton Abbey style book. I haven't watched Downton Abbey. It's been on my TBR film-wise to get into. But I love historicals, and this kind of is a both upstairs and downstairs mix of characters, and I just thought it would be really entertaining, and thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of see that done in a YA atmosphere, because most of the historicals I've read are adult. Well, that was my stack of just young adult children's books that they throw into the we don't care about pile. But I, of course, still went into the main section of the bookstore and picked up some just regular adult novels. So in my regular adult novels section, I picked up a couple books that were later books in series that I'm enjoying, a couple of just randoms. It was all about what did I find. So I did pick up Jim Butcher's White Knight, which is a later book in the Dresden Files series that I'm continuing to read right now. I think this is like 2 or 3 books ahead of where I'm at, but found it, and as I've said in the past, if it's there and I see it at this place, you never know what you're going to find, so it's kind of like grab it while it's available. I also picked up Silverborn by Patricia Briggs. This is the next book in this series that I'm reading, and so I was really excited to find this one because I am currently reading this series, and it is on my TBR right now, so that was a really great find. It's a really interesting take on werewolves, and Mercy is a coyote shifter and mechanic, so she's different than everybody else, and it's just a lot of fun to see the antics that are going on in this series. So I did pick up 2 books in Ilona Andrews' Kate Daniels series, Magic Slays and Magic Rises. Both of these are, I think this is books 4 and 5, and I'm reading book 3. So these are really close to being the next books up that I have going, so it was great to find 2 books in that series to be able to continue because I really enjoy this one. I love the way that magic is described in this world because magic and tech work in waves. So sometimes you're in a tech land where magic doesn't work at all, and sometimes you're in magic and tech doesn't work, so all of the electronics and stuff will quit during those magic waves. And it's set in Atlanta. There's shifters and all sorts of fantasy characters. It's a really, really wonderful urban fantasy series. I love how Kate is as a mercenary, and her relationship with Curran, the Beast Lord of the Shifters, is really developing and starting to get really interesting, so this could be a lot of fun. I also picked up Tangled Threads by Jennifer Estep. I really enjoy this series. I think this book is in about 2 books or 3 books ahead of where I'm at in the series. This is a book about an assassin, and she's fantastic and really just hardcore badass with magic. And I've enjoyed the book so far, so I'm really curious to see where this series develops to. And again, they had a random book in the series that I found. I grabbed it while I could. I recently added this book to my TBR based on some recommendations and was really pleasantly surprised to find it on the shelves, and that is Gail Kerrigan's Soulless, the first book in the Parasol Protectorate series. I've never read any of these. I've heard such wonderful, fantastic things about them. I really wanted to give it a shot. I know this is on my TBR for my meet and greet over the next 2 months, my meet and greet challenge. I thought I would grab it now and give it a shot and see how it goes. I also picked up Dragonwing by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This is the first book in the Deathgate cycle. I have been aware of this series most of my life. I have never gotten into reading it, in large part because I never really got into reading the Dragonlance books, and it never translated over into me reading their Deathgate cycle. And they had a lot of the series books in this bookstore, and I just thought, you know what, you've never read them. They're a well-known fantasy series. It was time to just grab the first book and see if I liked it, and then go from there. I do like dragons. Kind of do love dragons, and that definitely has an appeal. So going back to a series that's like older and been around a really long time, it's kind of fun to pick that up and see if it's worth diving into. And the last book I picked up at the used bookstore is one that I already own an audio version of, but it's really dragging and hard to listen to on the audio. Not that the audio is bad, it's just I'm only in the car for a certain amount of time, and the more that I listen to audio, the more I realize there's certain styles of books that are easier for me to listen to than others. I'm finding I really like nonfiction on audio because there's not this need to like dive ahead in the story and want to get there quicker and find out what happens, which when I'm reading is a big thing for me because I read so much faster. And so to listen to a book in the car that's hours long and hours and only be in the car for 30 minutes at a time, and then I can't listen to an audiobook outside of my car, it gets really hard when it's a book that I'm enjoying and it starts to drag, or you hit a really like tense point of something that's going to happen and you just want to know what's going to happen next. Like, I'll get there faster if I can read it. So I did pick up Lady of Light and Shadows. This is the second book in the Terran Souls series by C.L. Wilson. I really enjoyed the first book. I did listen to it all on audio, and it took a really long time to get through. And I did start the second book on audio because I am enjoying the audio version, but I'd like to pair it with the paperback and be able to get ahead faster when it gets to the kind of tough parts like I'm at right now, where I stopped listening to it because I was really frustrated with what was going on, and I wanted to get through that moment, but it was going to take forever on the audio, and I didn't have a physical copy, so now I have a physical copy and I can push through. Yay! So, that is all the books I picked up at my trip to the bookstore because I was crazy and just suddenly decided I needed all these books for no apparent reason. But it was totally worth it because I got to tell, oh no, that's not all of them! I set these aside because they were totally different and there was a reason. That's not all of them. I also did pick up 3 different books that were totally random, absolutely completely brainless books for the Christmas holiday season. So I picked up 3 holiday reads by 3 different romance authors. These are going to just be sappy, fun reads. First off, I picked up Linda Howard and Stephanie Bond's Under the Mistletoe. This is 2 little short novellas within the book, one by Linda Howard, one by Stephanie Bond. I read some Linda Howard in the past, but not any Stephanie Bond, but it was a Christmas book and it was on the shelf and they were $1, so it was like, all right, fun holiday books for December with the season. And I wanted some fun stuff to read over the next month. I'm totally giving myself a pass this month and just going to read some fun things and not try and kill myself. So that was 1. 2, we had Lori Foster, Gemma Bruce, and Janice Maynard's A Very Merry Christmas. So again, a series of short novellas by different authors. I like these for this time of year because I can just pick one up, read one, and then put it down and come back and read another one. And I don't have to like get really invested in a big novel for the Christmas holiday. I like a lot of shorts because I can intersperse them with other books that I'm reading. And finally, I picked up Jude Devereux's Holly. I've read a lot of Jude Devereux in the past. I do enjoy her books. And this was a Christmas book from her that I thought, all right, it's great. I haven't read any in a really long time. And it would be kind of fun to pick up one of her full-length Christmas stories. So yeah, that was my fun, like, additional, hey, I just want a seasonal book, so I'm going to grab them at my used bookstore, nice and cheap, because they sell all their romance, like, strictly romance books for $1 as well. Okay, so now that completes the entirety of my bookstore purchases. Let's see, how many books is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, I think. 28 bucks. That's a little ridiculous for a time that I went in to pick maybe 2, 3 books, maybe 5 at the most. Bad me. But it was totally worth it because there's some really great finds in there. Alright, we're going to move on to doing my unboxing of Book Outlet. I remember most of what I think I ordered in here. I'm kind of excited about it. I've never done an unboxing on my channel because I don't normally order from a lot of the outlets and stuff, and really it's YouTube that introduced me to Book Outlet, but I found some really great things that I really wanted on there, so what did I decide on? Best thing about working in a bar and being a bartender in between gigs? Wine keys. Best way to open packages ever. Because the little blade to open the wines, loveliness, best way to open wines, you know, foil, right there, great knife to open packages. Yay! Alright, pass the paper. Alright, so first up is the book that I was waiting for it to come in because I wanted to read this for Tome Topple, and I have like less than 24 hours now, or maybe like 24 hours now left to read it, and it's going to be the next thing I pick up, and I'm going to start it as soon as this video is done, and that is Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. I read the first book with my ebooks and really enjoyed it, and so I was looking forward to reading book 2 in the Infernal Devices, and they had it for lovingly low priced, and I decided I was going to pick up that paperback and add it to my collection. And I do own the Mortal Instruments series all in physical form, so I'll have to fill in the rest of the Infernal Devices in their physical copies. But this is, I'm reading this today. It's going with me now. Next up, we see The House of the Four Winds by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. I love Mercedes Lackey. She's one of my favorite authors. I have not read anything of hers in a very long time. this just popped up on my scanning of Book Outlet, and I thought, why not? Let's go for it. It's a new series. It's a new book. So it's mixing a fairy tale feel with a few elements of fantasy. This series launch will delight fans of light romances and Lackey's Tales of the 500 Kingdoms. I really enjoyed her 500 Kingdoms series, so it looked like a lot of fun. I know nothing about the book, but I really love the author. Next, we have Dare Awards, The Bourbon Kings. I've been reading to read this book for over a year. I've just never gone and purchased it. It's one I've been meaning to forever because I love Ward. And this is very different for her. And it's not her vampires. It's not her Covet series. Like, I wanted something different, and they had this copy in hardback. And I just decided I needed to buy it now. And I will try and read it here in the upcoming months because it's been on my TBR and my challenges forever. What else did I get? What is this one? Ooh, Scarlet. I'm making creaking noises with my box. Scarlet. So again, I read the first book in the Lunar Chronicle series by Marissa Mayer in ebook format. So I read Cinder a while back, and I have been wanting to read Scarlet and move on in the series, and I never have, and it was on Book Outlet, and I was like, you know what? I really, really like this series, and it's worth buying the physical copies, so I will just get the next book in the physical and start reading it here shortly. You know, BookTube is really killing me on my ebooks thing because I like the physical copies, and I've been so good about just getting ebooks and not adding books to my apartment. That's failing now. And thought I only had one left, but I have two left. So my second to last book in this box is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ondy. I'm probably butchering her last name. I have no idea how to pronounce it. Came across this book watching YouTube videos and other members of BookTube, and it just sounded so interesting as a retelling of 1001 Arabian Nights. And I just really, really loved that whole idea of Scheherazade. And I haven't read a lot of like Middle Eastern culture kind of stories. And I was really looking for something diverse and different. And what people had said about this book was really positive, and I thought I would give it a try. My last book in this box is a book I've already read, and is one that I was just really excited to have a physical copy of. I would love to get the other two, but I've never wanted to spend the money on the physical copies because I have them in, because I already have them in ebook format. And that is C.S. Picot's book 2 in her Captive Prince series, Prince's Gambit. This is my favorite book in the series. As much as I enjoy the whole of the series, it is a very dark series. There is a lot of issues dealing with slavery and rape and violence and a lot of very dark elements in the series. I love the Captive Prince series, and book 2 is my favorite. I enjoyed book 1 and book 3, but this one is like cements the relationship between Damon and Laurent, and it was so good. And so seeing this for like, I think it was like $3 or $4, it's like, all right, it is time. I'm going to have the physical copy of at least one of those books and hopefully fill in the other two soon. Anyway, that is my massive book haul for November. I can't believe I just indulged myself so much, but it was totally worth it because there's a lot of books in here that I plan on reading soon. I've got some new ones that are going to be entertaining to just add to my collection and get into at some point. And then there's a lot of books that I've already got planned and needed to get my hands on, whether it be an ebook or a digital copy or actual physical copy. But since I found them in the physical, we went with that. Hope you're all having a great time. Let me know what you think. If you've heard of some of these other random books that I picked up, I would love to know anything anyone has to say about them. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Give this video a big thumbs up or subscribe, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great night. Bye!